So, aside from the obvious creative bankruptcy driving the DreamWorks decision in the first place, is the movie any good? They remade How to Train Your Dragon, and this is the Everything is Mid hot take. There was a time in Hollywood when creativity wasn't just alive, it was the currency. And when it came to family entertainment, Disney Studios, Pixar in tow, was the undisputed king of the mountain. They led the charge, and everyone else scrambled to catch up. But slowly, studios like DreamWorks, Blue Sky, and Illumination found their voice. Then suddenly, Disney wasn't the only one serving up heartfelt, high-quality animated stories. One early standout? How to Train Your Dragon by DreamWorks. That film was a stunner, a visual feast, with sharp character work, soaring emotion, and a beating heart beneath all the fire-breathing spectacle. At its core, it's the story of a boy who finds his courage through an unlikely bond with the most lovable dragon to grace the screen since, well, ever. And a huge part of that charm? Toothless didn't just look cool, he moved like something real. The animators cleverly gave him the mannerisms of like a giant house cat, all wrapped in sleek midnight black scales. It was genius, and it gave the film its soul. Fast forward to 2025, the once vibrant, creatively buzzing Hollywood has wandered off into the desert. The visionaries have been replaced by number crunchers, political messaging, and a demand for streaming content that prioritizes quantity over quality. Somehow, Disney leads, only now it's with reheated leftovers, a conveyor belt of live-action remakes no one really asked for. And now, DreamWorks joins in the remake brigade, giving How to Train Your Dragon the live-action treatment. Quotes necessary because, let's be honest, 90% of what you're seeing on the screen is still CG. And so, once again, we the audience are left asking the eternal question, what's the point? Remakes are like cover songs. A lot of covers suck. You've heard them. A flat rendition of a classic that completely misses the soul of the original. All polish, no punch. A cash grab by the musical artist who's singing on the shoulder of giants. Then again, sometimes a fresh voice brings something unexpected to a familiar tune. Adds nuance, new emotion. And when it works, it can be magic. Or at the very least, it's really satisfying. Now, in the case of How to Train Your Dragon, let's be real. This cover wasn't born of inspiration. It was born of brand recognition, streaming algorithms, and the promise of cash flow. So, that said, aside from the obvious creative bankruptcy driving the DreamWorks decision in the first place, is the movie any good? Well, yes. Yes, it is. Surprisingly so. It took me more than a minute to get into it, though. I couldn't stop thinking about the original. In fact, this remake is a religiously faithful cover, often using the animated film as a storyboard. More often than not, it's shot for shot, beat for beat. Dialogue is reused, remixed, or rephrased, but the bones? Same skeleton, right down to the metaphorical wishbone, assuming dragons have a... And it works, especially visually. The advancements in CG since 2010 are striking. Looking back, the original, while still compelling, feels a bit soft around the edges. You can see its age. Lighting, textures, nuance, they've all come a long way. The original, at times, has the faint aesthetic of a high-end CGI puppet show, kind of like all of those early CG movies have. Don't get me wrong, I really like the stylized, cartoony look of the original. But this new version? The world feels lush and alive. The dragons aren't just cartoons. They are fantastical creatures that could exist just beyond the fog. And the environments stay true to the animated roots, but with added depth and tactile realism. And Toothless? Absolute perfection. The filmmakers wisely didn't overhaul his design. They just polished it. He's the PS5 remaster of a PS3 legend. Same charm, sharper detail, and more presence. As for the human cast, well, mixed bag. Mason Thames makes a solid Hiccup. A little too pretty, maybe? A touch more teen soap lead than nervous nerd. But serviceable. He's definitely in the ballpark. I know nothing about sports except for sports metaphors. I missed that awkward Clark Kent energy the animated version nailed. But Mason holds his own and delivers a credible version of Hiccup. Less gangly underdog, more reluctant prince, but the heart's in the right place. Enough to make us believe that there's a dragon whisperer under all that perfect hair. Astrid, on the other hand, despite the controversy of turning Betty into Veronica here, Nico Parker has the right look and figure to inhabit the role. She has the Spitfire attitude, but lacks the physicality. I'm not saying she can't jump and roll. This all looks fine. but she's like, what, a 90-pound twig? I think that's easier to buy when you're watching a cartoon. Instead, we get Parker, who reads more like annoyed honor student with a sword. Chemistry between leads? It's there. It's not sizzling, but it's fine. The rest of the Dragon trainees feel a bit like cosplay. Technically correct, but emotionally shallow. I never felt like these characters lived in this world and existed outside of their line reads. They all felt functional but fictional. If there was a standout, it was Gabriel Howell's Snotlout, who gets a little more character depth this time around via his emotionally distant dad. It's small, but it gives him just enough depth to feel like he belongs in the world, not just on the call sheet. Oh, and speaking of dads, Gerard Butler as Stoick the Vast, commanding. Grounded, totally nails it. But the real scene stealer? Nick Frost as Gobber. Best known for his work in British comedies like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Frost brings warmth, wit, and exactly the comic balance this story needs. Honestly, more Gobber. Now, no How to Train Your Dragon review would be complete without mentioning the absurdity of throwing teenagers into an arena with wild dragons and calling it training. I mean, what could go wrong? They could be horrifically maimed and or ripped apart and completely unalived. But hey, suspension of disbelief is a small price to pay for this overall rollicking ride. Yes, at its worst, the movie can feel like a checklist, quickly but carefully marching through familiar moments because, well, that's what they did in the original. But when it locks in on what really matters, the bond between Hiccup and Toothless, it soars. Literally. That relationship still carries the film, and the emotional payoff still lands with an impact. The remake is clearly an upgrade in visual fidelity, but more importantly, it stays loyal to the heart of the story. And that's largely thanks to writer-director Dean DeBlois. Dino! Having helmed both the original and this remake, he proves himself to be a good shepherd of the franchise, guiding it with care and genuine affection. His love shows in every frame, and that's what elevates this beyond a shameless cash grab. The original broke new ground and planted its dragon flag proudly in the cinematic sand. This version? It honors that legacy, it updates it, and, for the most part, it justifies its existence, along with the inevitable sequels that are sure to follow. So was this remake necessary? Maybe not. But is it worth watching? Absolutely. And for the savvy viewers, yeah, I just gestured at everything.